I'm here today at the lovely Decoy Lakes in Cambridgeshire. I'm joined by a really good friend of mine and also one of the best all-round anglers in the country, Mr. Andy Geldart. Andy, I want to talk today about the Angling Trust Winter League final. It's obviously split between here at Decoy and the neighbouring Fenland Drains. You're a member of the mighty Drennan Barnsley Blacks.
Yep.
Arguably the best team in the country. Well, I'd say unarguably the best team in the country actually over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. I want to talk about a team approach. How you come to a venue like this with the view to getting the most out of your peg for the team, basically.
Yep. It's Decoy is quite an interesting venue, really, isn't it? How you can attack it, give them some bait, so it makes it a really interesting team venue, really, because of the different styles of fishing. So it's quite exciting to be coming back here every single year, to be honest. And it doesn't change that much either, which keeps it good for the teams that are getting to the final year after year.
Absolutely. In a little while we're going to run through the lakes that are being used and how we expect the final to pan out, and also look at some of the facilities here at Decoy. But before that, we've picked 3 key methods, haven't we, that you think will dominate this final? Yes.
Obviously we've got a bomb, or maybe a little bit of feeder work, but mainly bomb, long pole and short pole. They're the 3 main methods here at Decoy, and on every single lake that is pretty much what you're going to be fishing, whether it be the strip lakes or whether it be these older style natural lakes where we cast into a far bank island or whatever. It's all going to be them pretty much 3 methods.
Excellent. Before we move on and look at those, I just want to talk a little bit about this peg and your history on it. Peg 6 on lose. Tell us what happened the last time you drew here.
Peg 6 on lose, I could probably say this is one of the best pegs, well, in the country, but certainly at Decoy this is one of the best pegs. 3 years ago I was lucky enough to be handed this peg on the final then, and I was lucky enough to win the match and obviously win the section, which is what we come on this match for. Come to get good points for the team. Pegs like this normally take care of themselves. And that's what it's all about, getting the maximum out of your pegs and coming back to the draw at the end of the day and producing as many points as you can for the team.
Absolutely. I know you caught most of your fish that day on the bomb, so I suggest we start by having a look at bomb fishing.
Lovely, yeah. So we're on peg 6 on the lovely Lewes Lake. Now this, for anybody that doesn't know, is an absolute flyer. It's, especially in a big match like the Angling Trust Winter League final, it is the peg which pretty much everybody wants. The amount of water that's in front of you is absolutely frightening, but the amount of fish that's in the peg is, well, it's just phenomenal. I was lucky enough to draw this peg in 2017, and I won the match, so I did my bit for the team that day. Ended up catching, I can't remember the weight, but roughly about 160, 180 pound. And the main method that day that I caught on was bomb and pop up, which is it's almost like dobbing on the pole, but you're on a bomb. So it's a matter of casting about in the peg, trying to find where the fish are. You can have 1 cast, 2 casts in an area, not get a bite. Cast another 2 meters to the left or right, try and find the fish, and it's just ever so simple. We've got a 9-foot bomb rod, a nice 3/4 ounce inline lead, and a foot long hook length to a white pop-up. Now I'm using a Washter today. These are not naturally pop-ups, they're obviously sort of neutral buoyancy, but with the use of a small hook they do pop up off the bottom. If I was to put a bigger hook on this, it would sink it and make it neutral buoyancy, but out there's quite a lot of dead lilies laid on the bottom, so it's quite essential to get it popped up off the bottom away from those lilies. And to be fair, that's where the carp generally like to sit, is just off the bottom above those lilies. Now I'll have a cast and see if we can catch one. It's not really essential to get tight into the reeds, because like I said, there is a massive amount of lilies there underneath the water, but they're all sink down to the bottom, almost half dead. But this method that I'm using now is going to play a big part in the final, not just on this lake, but most of the lakes. Some lakes like the strip lakes, you've got damson, cedar, oak and yew and elm. They're all strip lakes where there's no far banks to fish to because there's people opposite you, but there's still like bomb and pop-up fishing to be caught. There's still a lot of bomb and pop-up fishing on there because, especially the days where you're actually on the fish, it's not necessarily to actually feed the fish because they're already there. So it's a really, really good way of fishing, especially this time of year. But as a lot of people who know Decoy fairly well, it is a venue where you can attack it as well. So on certain pegs where you're not necessarily on the main shoal or it's become a little bit warmer, you can fish like little methods, little banjo feeders, hybrid feeders, and also on the pole it's not just dobbing, we can feed some micro pellets, a lot of maggot fishing as well. But like I say, here on this certain lake especially, and this peg, it's a lot of like dobbing style fishing. There's peg 1 down to my left here, which is a huge reed bed, and then also the end peg at the back of it, I think it's maybe about peg 16 or 18. That's exactly the same, so it's not going to be really bomb fishing there, it's going to be pole fishing, which is pretty much the same as using a foot hook length and popping it up. I like to plumb up and then take roughly a foot off, so I'm fishing about a foot off the bottom. But that's on the day, it can be a lot different, so it's sort of trial and error as to what's the best. And it is the same sort of principle as well when fishing this bomb and pop up. If the water's a little bit shallower where I'm casting, because I'm probably casting into 4 foot of water here, and popping it up a foot is about right. But if I was chucking it into a little bit less water and there's not as many lilies or debris on the bottom, I'd be tempted to either use a shorter hook length or even put a shot on my hook length to pin it down a little bit to only pop it up 4 or 6 inches. But that's almost trial and error on the day and depending on how the fish are feeding. It's quite a good way of fishing, to be fair. It's especially when chucking it to features and islands, because that's where that's where you know the fish are sort of like living under the banking or in the reeds. So it's just a case of almost, they're not moving it, so they just live there in the winter, they're just sat there, and it's just a case of almost teasing them. So that's why, I mean, you're not allowed bread here at Decoy, where some venues you might use 2 or 3 popped up discs of bread. But the big visible white bait, it just stands out a million miles in the water, and you're almost annoying them, and it's in the face, and then 2 or 3 will sort of get near it, and then one will compete for it and have it. Now, a lot of the time, a lot of bites come quite quickly with this method because, like I said before, it's almost like a dobbing style method. So generally I'll normally give it a maximum of 5 minutes for a cast. I mean, I've had some very quick bites today. I mean, I had to wait probably 3 or 4 minutes. It's definitely worth timing your bites. Like I say, if I haven't had a bite within 4 or 5 minutes, it's definitely worth a recast in a different area, even if it's just 2 or 3 foot to one side. Like I said, it's all about plonking it on the nose, because they're not moving about and competing for bait, so you've almost got to put it on its nose. So a lot of bites come relatively quick, and if you don't get a bite straight away or within 5 minutes, it's definitely worth casting in a different place. Especially when, like here, we've got such a big reed bed, you can cast in, there's lots of different areas where the fish can be or where you can cast. There we are, hooks come out in the net there. That's just a typical decoy carp, really. Beautiful condition. Caught on a popped up white wowser. in general on all the lakes at Decoy, there's only really 2 main pole lines that I like to attack. The first one being a short maggot line. Now for this, I like to fish a nice light elastic, a 3 to 6 Mapollo, a slim 0.3 float, down to a spread bulk with 2 droppers and then 18 hook on the end. Now it's not really an out and out bagging rig this, because I'm expecting to catch almost anything that swims, and on the day of the final, if I can get a bite, a chuck from start to finish, I'll be happy with that, because I've put something in the net. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's all points related. So if I'm catching something all day, and the chances are, especially like on a lot of these lakes where there's a lot of these big F1s, and so I'm talking like 3-4 pound F1s, they can make an appearance in the last hour, so you can catch like nice and steady roach, skimmers, some big perch, even barbel, and then hope that an odd big F1 comes in later on. And like I say, it's all about team points. So like in general, this rig, like I've fished it fairly positive with a bit of a spread bulk and 2 droppers, but it's not too positive where I've just got 1 bulk at the top of my hook length to try and get it down. I still want the natural fall, because it's quite clear as the water. And yeah, line choice as well. I'm fishing 010 hook length, 014 main line, which is lovely and balanced with the elastic I'm using. So if I do hook roach, I can, you know, there's a good chance I'm not going to bump them. Skimmers, there's enough elastic to come out. And also if I hook a big carp or a big F1, or even some of these barbel are massive in here as well, I've got every chance of landing them, because it's a nice soft elastic, and an 010 to an 18 is not overly light, but it's heavy enough to land them big carp if necessary. You know, and like I say, this elastic could stretch into them reeds on the far bank, but I can soon have them under control with my puller bung. Like today, I've been catching quite a lot of big carp on this line, and I've not had to change my hook length, gone any bigger, any up to 014s, 016s. I just don't see the need. You know, just keep it nice and simple, and don't complicate things really. It's I mean, generally it's all red maggots. I mean, it's personal preference if I'm honest with you, but I like to just put 2 red maggots on, 1 up through the bottom, 1 up through the top, and feed this line quite aggressively really, because it's almost a bit of a catch everything. So if there's a lot of silvers about, they can be up in the water and intercepting the maggots. And if there's some F1s hopefully coming into the peg, they'll be sat underneath. So if I feed it too negative, like 6 or 8 maggots every time, I'm not even guaranteeing that them maggots are getting to the bottom in the chance of catching a better fish. And also, feeding a bit heavy does keep more fish on the bottom and stops them from coming up if they want to. But like I say, this is like the line to catch, to get some bites and guarantee I catch something for the team really. That's what it's all about, this match. It's not about coming to a peg and trying to win the match or trying to win my lake. I'm trying to get bites, and I'm trying to put something in the net for points at the end of the day. It's mega hard now to, you know, to compete, because there's so many good anglers on the bank, so ounces make all the difference. So you might feel like you're not going anywhere by, you know, some anglers are catching an odd carp, but you'll be very surprised that come the weigh-in how much you've put in the net with catching them silvers on top of catching some F1s and carp. It's amazing how the light elastic, you can just let it do what it wants to do. So if that, you know, if there's a roach or a skimmer, it'd have pulled it out a couple of foot this, and it's lovely and soft. But we've hooked a nice, well, probably a big F1 or a small carp, and I've straight got it under control. I've got it near the net. It took off, and I've got it near the net now. And you know, it's just important that everything's balanced. That I couldn't be using this 010 hook length with, let's just say, an 8 to 10 elastic, because it just end up getting broke, or I'd pull the small hook out. But at the same time, if you don't need to pull their heads off, it is winter, they're not fighting mega hard, but just almost take your time a little bit, and it doesn't really take that much longer to land the fish. Now the other main line of attack here at Decoy for the final is going to be the long pole line, and at the moment it's a lot of corn fishing. There is some pellet fishing, a bit of micros and expander pellets, but there is a lot of corn fishing, and my personal favourite is to fish corn over micros really. Now it's a bit different to the short line because obviously loose feeding maggots and not keeping everything really tight because we're attracting all styles of fish. But on the long line I'm solely fishing for carp and F1s, so I'll always fish with a little pot on my pole. Don't need to be feeding a lot. Maybe if I'm corn fishing I'll be feeding 6 to 8 pieces, or if I'm putting some pellets in it'll be maybe 20 or 30 micros, couple of pieces of corn. Now to the gear, elastic wise I use exactly the same again, because I like a soft elastic. I can let the fish swim out of my peg, and I can fish a little bit lighter if necessary, but I've always got my puller bung to get them under control. Float wise I'm using a 0.4. Now it's a little bit windier here today. On average a lot of the pegs are 4-5 foot, so a 0.3, 0.4 is more than adequate for most pegs on these lakes. A little bit different, I've got a foot hook length on this one because I like a nice natural fall on my piece of corn with a strung bulk over maybe 8 inch at the top of the hook length. Hook length's a little bit heavier, 0.12 and a size 16 hook. Pretty much, like I say, I'm fishing corn today, but a single piece of corn is I find best, but I'd still use the same size hook if I was pellet fishing. Just a nice fine wire 16, don't need to be anything heavy, and just probably half a dozen 8 pieces of corn in. Oops. It's all just about being nice and accurate with this really. Trying to keep it nice and tight, and you're almost setting a little trap. Now this is going to work on all the lakes here at Decoy. Now I think it's a bit of personal preference and what on the day is best as to whether you fish corn or pellets or a bit of both. But like I said, my personal favourite really is just solely corn. I do feel like it sometimes can pick out the bigger fish just fishing corn, and also less baits in the peg, i.e. not as many micro pellets, not as many other, it's just one bait in the peg, nice and heavy, and it's there sat on the bottom. It can be a case of you might only get 2 or 3 bites on this line throughout the day. You might get a bite or chuck on it and weigh over 100 pound. It all depends on the pegs on the day. And as when I described my rig, I said I've got that bit longer hook length, a foot hook length, and the nice strung bulk above that. And another reason for that is I like to keep moving my bait quite a lot, especially the corn fishing, and I like to lift it that foot really, which is the length of my hook length, and then it's got that nice foot of nice natural fall. It can bring you quite a lot of bites. It's like I say, it's winter fishing. There's carp sat round your float and they're not swimming about. They're just in the vicinity all the time, and it's about almost making them make a move. It's sometimes just lifting and dropping can tempt them into taking it. They can be sat at the back of your bait and then they see that nice little natural fall of a piece of corn and they come in and have it. Especially when it's clear water like this, they'd be surprised at how far away carp can see a big yellow piece of corn. And with no shot, that last foot of line not having any shot, it means that the corn can sink at its natural pace rather than being pushed down by an extra shot.
Andy, that's been absolutely fascinating. A simple approach, I'd say. You've kept everything really simple in how you've fished, but one that I can see clearly will help you get the most from almost every peg you draw.
Yeah, I think it's quite a safe bet. You know, in the methods that I've shown today, they're going to work on any peg on the complex, and I think it's quite a safe bet to sort of like stick to that way of fishing. You know, for like was talked about before, it's all about team points.
Absolutely.
And coming back with them steady run of points.
The Angling Trust haven't released the official peggers yet, but I do know that the same lakes as last year are planned on being used, so we'll just run through those. The strip lakes obviously spell out the word decoy, don't they?
Decoy.
We've got Damson, Elm, Cedar, Oak and Yew.
Oak and Yew, yep.
Any thoughts on them?
Damson I've never actually fished, so I don't know, but that is totally different to the others, isn't it? I think.
Carp, isn't it? Stockies, I think.
Yes. Whereas then you've got Elm all the way down to Yew, which it's all sort of like long pole fishing. If it's a bit windy, a bit of bomb fishing, but I think it's majority long pole fishing with pellets and corn on there.
Yeah.
Fishing for proper carp. There's even quite a lot of barbling, some pegs on there as well.
Okay, and that's so moving further down the strips then, we've got Cedar, haven't we, on the next one?
Yep.
Cedar and Oak, I think, are bigger carp mainly, aren't they?
Yeah, Cedar I think is a bit of mixture. There's some F1s, there's a fair few barbling Cedar, and obviously the big carp, but then Oak is, from what my experience of Oak is, it's pretty much 90% big carp.
That's often the lake that wins the final.
That's the lake where the biggest weights come off, but it's also the peggiest, shall we say, where you don't get as many bites on there off the shoal. Where the other strip lakes you do tend to get more bites away from the main shoal, shall we say.
A bit all or nothing then?
But all or nothing, yeah, but they are big fish in Oak, very big fish.
Okay, and finally Yew.
Yew, yeah, that's a mixture of everything again, F1s, big carp and barbel. Yeah, I think Yew is almost the fairest of the strip lakes, where they can be a bit more spread out. But where they're going to be, on Oak, they're always on that hide, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is it peg 10 and 20 and opposite? Yeah. But on Yew, I think it's a bit of an unpredictable one as to where they are. They're generally from halfway down to the far end, but I've also known them catch them at the near end, the car park end as well. So they're a bit unpredictable, those lakes, as to where the fish are going to land. But there's some bites to be had, apart from Oak. There's some bites to be had on most pegs.
So moving up from the strips then, we've got Beasty. Biggest lake on complex. Really nice, varied fishing on there. Bit of everything to go at, really. Yeah,
there's a bit of everything on Beasty. It's like there's a lot of fish in Beasty. Now in summer you're catching 200 to 300 pound weights of great big carp. But in winter it seems to calm down a little, and like 50 to 70 pound could be mega in the final on that lake. But it's quite challenging fishing. Because there's a lot of silverfish in there, and it's same again, there's a lot of big F1s, some big carp, but the expanse of water in front of you makes them a little bit harder to catch, so decisions on the day on methods is vital on there, really.
Absolutely. And behind that we've got 6 islands and 4 islands.
6 islands and 4 islands, yeah. 6 islands is, I think, is one of the best lakes on the complex.
I love it on there. I always seem to draw there when I come here.
Yeah, yeah. It's I'd say that's predominantly carp on there.
Absolutely.
Lots of 4 or 5 pound carp. There's F1s as well. Some big even some massive grass carp in there, isn't there? But that's all sort of like a bit. There's a lot of little islands on there, isn't there? And fishing to islands with corn and pellets. Sort of like kinky fishing on there, isn't it? If you know what I mean. And then 4 islands. I've never actually drawn 4 islands, but I think that's mainly F1 fishing. Yeah. There's a lot of F1s where 40, 50 pound will be mega on 4 islands.
It offers splits actually. I think it used to be split with Damson, didn't it? But whether it still is, I don't know. I think last year it was.
Yes, yes.
So that's a lap of the gods really, isn't it, as to which lake's best in the split, but yeah. Can't tell that till the day.
No, we don't know where it's going to be split with. And sorry, going back to 6 islands, a good weight on 6 islands I would predict to... Yeah, I think you'll need £60, £70 for mediocre points on there. Yeah. Because it's generally really good fishing on there.
And of course, you mentioned the volume of anglers. The nice thing about 6 islands is the fish can't get away from you.
No.
Every part of the lake's fished, isn't it? So,
that's right. Yeah, and they just seem to spread out on there a little bit. Yeah, so it's a good lake for catching fish. That
absolutely. Behind that we've got Horseshoe.
Horseshoe, yeah, that's one of my favourite. Well, not my favourite lake. I always seem to draw on Horseshoe Lake on the open matches leading up to this final. And that's, wow, there's some big F1s in there, Tom, isn't there? Yeah. There's a lot of like bomb fishing on there, fishing across, some feeder fishing as well. And then maggots short, that seems to be quite a good method. For silvers again, barbels, some skimmers, and then hope that them big F1s rock up later on.
Absolutely. And then we come down to where we are now, 2 lakes down here. We've got Willows, which... Again, an interesting lake. That's the one I always seem to draw on in the open matches leading up to it, but a real lake of 2 halves often when it comes to the final.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Like you've got the early numbers, which is almost in a bit of a bowl, and it's like 20-25 metres to an island. Generally not very good, but I know last year there was some fish in that bowl. But then you've got your noted pegs. I think 15. There's sometimes some fish on there. Then into another little bowl, then peg 25, 29, and then opposite, and they're fishing to little islands, aren't they? And in gaps and stuff. A lot of rod and line fishing on there, Don't get me wrong, there is some pole fishing, mainly long pole fishing, but same again, it's the same 3 methods on there: long pole, pellets and corn, short pole, maggots, and then a lot of bomb and pop-up fishing.
And that just brings us on to our final lake where we've sat today.
Famous Lewes.
Yeah. So obviously you're going to be on peg 6 come the final. Yeah. So what should everybody else do on the rest of the lake?
Every peg's exactly the same on here, apart from the first few pegs. Pegs 1 and I don't know what the end peg is. Is it 15 or 16, something like that? Yeah. That'll be predominantly pole fishing on there, fishing, dobbing into the reeds and things like that, because you can't really fish a rod and line on there because they're that thick with the reeds. You're not going to be able to really fish it, so it'll be dobbing up the sides, and then everybody's going to catch on a rod and line to the far bank. This is another really good lake, but same again, there's a lot of silvers in here as well, so there might be some big weights of silvers for good points. Yeah,
very interesting.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so that's our roundup of the lakes at Decoy. I should mention 2 things. First and foremost, there's been a change in the net rules this year here at Decoy Lakes. Basically, it's now bring your own keep nets. That's a big change from previous years, because in the past the venues always supplied the keep nets. And I think that the new rules make a lot of sense, don't they, Andy?
I think so, yeah. As long as people are sensible, all John's asked for is bring 2 nets and split your fish. Yeah. And we've just got to respect that rule and try and be sensible with your splits.
Absolutely. Also, just to say, there's a tackle shop on site that's well stocked. There's always maggots that can be bought from there. If you want some for the final, there's probably quite a lot of demand, just give him a call and order them with him. And then also there is a cafe on site where you can get a breakfast on the morning of the final as well. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Andy, for such an excellent guide.
Thank you, Tom.
On the lakes and a masterclass in fishing. And yeah, we'll see you on the Winter League final.